In this episode, we're going to connect security to the organization's goals, objectives, and stated values in a way that makes security feel relevant instead of separate. Beginners often picture security as a protective shell that sits around an organization, but in reality, security is most effective when it is woven into the organization's purpose and priorities. Goals are the big outcomes the organization wants to achieve. Objectives are the concrete steps and targets that move those goals forward, and stated values are the principles the organization claims to live by, such as integrity, service, innovation, or accountability. When security aligns with these elements, security stops sounding like a list of restrictions and starts sounding like a way to protect what the organization cares about. Alignment also makes decision-making easier, because you can evaluate security choices by asking how they support the organization's direction. Without alignment, security can feel random, inconsistent, and easy to ignore because people do not see how it helps them succeed. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Start by understanding what alignment means in practical terms, because alignment is not just repeating the organization's values in a security document. Alignment is when security priorities, policies, and decisions support the organization's ability to reach its goals without unacceptable risk. For example, if an organization's goal is to expand services to more customers, security alignment might mean protecting customer data, ensuring systems can handle growth without failing, and preventing fraud that could damage trust. If the organization's objective is to deliver faster, security alignment might mean creating safe ways to move quickly, rather than blocking change until everything is perfect. If the organization values transparency, security alignment might mean clear reporting of risks and incidents without hiding problems, while still protecting sensitive information appropriately. Alignment is a relationship between what the organization is trying to do and how security reduces the risks that could derail it. The key idea is that security is not the end goal. It is a support function that keeps the organization capable of achieving its own goals. When you keep that framing, security conversations become more productive and less defensive. A helpful early step is learning the difference between what an organization says it values and what it actually rewards, because this gap can shape security outcomes. Stated values are what leadership communicates, but lived values are what people infer from promotions, praise, budgets, and consequences. An organization might say it values privacy, but if it repeatedly cuts funding for data protection efforts, people learn privacy is not a real priority. Another might say it values accountability, but if mistakes are punished harshly, people learn to hide issues rather than report them. For security alignment, you need to understand both the stated values and the lived values, because security strategies that ignore lived values often fail in practice. This does not mean you accept unhealthy culture. It means you design security approaches that work in the current environment while helping the organization move toward its stated ideals. Alignment is partly technical and partly social, because security behavior depends on trust and incentives. When security leaders recognize this, they can choose tactics that are more likely to stick. Now consider goals and objectives as a ladder, where goals are the top and objectives are the rungs. Security alignment starts by mapping security concerns to where they can affect that ladder. For example, if a goal depends on customer trust, then protecting confidentiality and integrity becomes directly linked to the goal, not just a compliance task. If an objective depends on reliable operations, then availability and resilience become directly linked to the objective. Beginners sometimes think security is only linked to avoiding attacks, but security is also linked to preventing downtime, preventing errors, preventing fraud, and preventing loss of important information. These risks can interrupt the ladder at any rung, delaying objectives and weakening goals. When you can describe security in that ladder language, stakeholders understand why security matters now, not later. This is especially important in management roles, where the best arguments are those that connect to outcomes the organization already measures. Alignment also requires clear prioritization, because organizations cannot protect everything equally at the same level all the time. A common beginner misconception is that strong security means maximum controls everywhere, but maximum controls can create cost, friction, and delays that harm the organization's ability to operate. A better approach is risk-based alignment, where the strongest protections are applied to the most important assets and processes, while lower-risk areas receive appropriate, lighter protections. This is not about being careless. It is about being intentional and proportional. When security is proportional, it supports objectives instead of disrupting them unnecessarily. It also builds credibility, because stakeholders notice when security decisions are reasonable and connected to risk. Credibility matters because security programs often need cooperation, and cooperation is easier when people trust the program's judgment. Proportionality turns security from a blunt instrument into a precision tool. Another part of alignment is translation, meaning security must communicate in the organization's language, not only in security language. Terms like confidentiality, integrity, and availability are foundational, but many stakeholders respond better to business outcomes like customer trust, service uptime, quality, and legal exposure. Translation does not mean oversimplifying or hiding the truth. It means choosing words that match how the organization thinks. For example, instead of saying we need stronger access control, you might say we need to ensure only the right people can approve sensitive changes so we avoid errors and fraud. Instead of saying we need better monitoring, you might say we need earlier visibility into problems so we can respond before customers are affected. The underlying security meaning is the same, but the framing connects to goals and objectives. Beginners sometimes worry that this is manipulation, but it is actually a form of teaching. You are helping people see how security relates to their responsibilities. Good alignment depends on mutual understanding. Alignment also changes how security evaluates trade-offs, because organizations constantly balance speed, cost, quality, and risk. A security leader aligned to organizational goals does not simply say no when risk exists. They help the organization choose an acceptable path forward. This might involve selecting controls that reduce risk while preserving speed, or adjusting processes to add review without creating bottlenecks. The important point is that security becomes part of decision-making rather than a late-stage veto. When security is invited early, it can suggest options, clarify what risks matter most, and help teams avoid rework. This supports objectives by preventing last-minute surprises, which are expensive and frustrating. It also supports values by showing that the organization takes its commitments seriously enough to plan for risk. Over time, early involvement becomes a habit, and security becomes less adversarial. To align with stated values, security also needs to model those values in how it operates. If the organization values integrity, the security program should be honest about risk, including uncomfortable truths, rather than hiding problems to look successful. If the organization values respect, the security program should design controls that treat people fairly and avoid unnecessary surveillance or humiliation. If the organization values service, the security program should support teams with guidance and clear processes rather than only enforcement. If the organization values accountability, the security program should define clear roles and decisions so responsibility is not vague. This is important because people judge security not only by what it says, but by how it behaves. A security program that claims to support values but behaves inconsistently will lose trust quickly. Trust is a security asset because it influences reporting, cooperation, and adherence. Alignment is therefore partly about operational ethics, not just strategy. Beginner-friendly examples can help you see alignment in action. Imagine an organization whose goal is to provide reliable online services, and an objective is to reduce outages. Security alignment would emphasize resilience, change control discipline, and rapid detection of issues, because outages can be caused by both attacks and mistakes. In this case, security and reliability are partners, not competitors. In another organization, the goal might be to grow quickly by launching new features, with an objective to shorten release cycles. Security alignment might focus on clear standards, automated checks where appropriate, and strong governance of sensitive actions, so speed increases without reckless exposure. The exact controls might differ, but the alignment principle stays the same. security reduces the risks that threaten the goal. When people see security supporting their success, they stop treating it as a separate hurdle. That shift can transform culture over time. Finally, alignment must be maintained, not declared once and forgotten. Organizational goals and objectives evolve as markets change, leadership changes, and new risks emerge. If the organization shifts toward more cloud services, for example, the security alignment work shifts too, because the risks and responsibilities change. If a new objective emphasizes partnerships, alignment might require stronger third-party risk management and clearer data sharing expectations. Maintaining alignment means regularly checking whether security priorities still match what the organization is trying to do, and adjusting without losing the program's overall direction. This is also where success measures matter, because measures can show whether alignment is producing better outcomes, such as fewer disruptions, better compliance, or faster recovery. When alignment is measured and discussed, it becomes real and actionable rather than a vague claim. The security program stays connected to the organization's reality. In conclusion, aligning security with organizational goals, objectives, and stated values is about making security a practical support for what the organization is trying to achieve, rather than a separate set of rules that people tolerate. Alignment means connecting security priorities to the outcomes the organization measures, using proportional risk-based decisions, and communicating in language that stakeholders recognize. It also means understanding the difference between stated values and lived values, then operating the security program in a way that strengthens trust and reinforces the values the organization wants to embody. When security helps teams move faster safely, prevents disruptions that threaten objectives, and protects trust that supports long-term goals, it becomes easier to champion and easier to sustain. Most importantly, alignment provides a steady compass for security decisions, because choices are evaluated by how well they protect the organization's purpose and commitments. When security is aligned, it is not a department on the side. It is part of how the organization succeeds.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit DailyCyber.News.